So we've been asked to check whether a word is a palindrome or not. And a palindrome is simply what? A word that reads the same even if you read it backwards. Okay. So going to my code, I've created a file called the one underscore example one.py, and we're going to check for the palindrome. Okay. So now first thing you have to ask yourself is test case. So test case. Now a test case, so we have to put true if you get a word like madam. Madam, whether you turn it forward or back, it is true. But then if we get a word like father, it is what? False. So we can put false if we get a word like father. This is not part of the code. I'm trying to understand the question. Okay. So your first task as a programmer is to try to understand the question that you've been given. So I'm just trying to give a simple scenario. So if it is madam, it should be true. If it is something like father, it should be false, because for father, when you read it backwards, it's not the same as reading it forward. Okay. So this is just our first test case. This is just our first test case. So let me see. So madam will be true, but father will be false. Okay. Now, so what should we do? Let me write my algorithm. Algorithm. Algorithm simply means that a series of steps that the computer should follow, or someone should follow to achieve a particular result. So for example, so first of all, what should we do with my algorithm? So step one, let me say step one, ask the user for a word. Okay, that should be the first step. Okay, step two, when the user gives us the word, the step two, for me, I've already thought it through. That's why I'm able to write them. But sometimes you may need to sit down and think for some time, or sometimes some days, sometimes some hours. So step two, so the step one is ask the user for a word. So step two, um, make a reverse, or let's say reverse the word. Reverse the word and assign it to another variable. Okay, so the task one, we ask the user to enter a word and assign it to a variable. Then the step two, we reverse the word and assign it to what? Another variable. So now we're having two variables. One variable has the the one the user entered. The other variable has the reverse form of it. Then as step three, we can check if they are the same. Check if they are the same. Then step four, print true if they are, else false if they aren't. Okay, so this is my algorithm. So now if I give you a project and you're able to write the algorithm alone, it helps me to understand what you are doing. Okay, so now that I have my algorithm, I can easily write my solution. Okay, so don't go ahead and start typing some codes. Sit down and think about the steps before you start typing the codes. So now let me type the code for my step one. So step one, come to what? Ask the user for an input and assign it to a variable. So let me just say the variable is what? Word. And let me ask the user for an input. So I say enter a word. Voila, I'm done with step one. I'm done with step one. Now step two, according to my algorithm, the step two, I'm to reverse it and assign to another variable. Okay, so let's say the reverse form of the word, that's the new variable I've chosen. So then I take the old word, this one, And I told you that semicolon, semicolon, -1 will reverse the word for us. And I write it. Voila, I'm done with step 2. The next step is step 3. Okay. And the step 3, according to my own algorithm, I say check if they are the same. So I can say, let's say check. I can assign it to a variable called check. So I say word double equal to means comparison. You are comparing reverse word. So is this word, I'm putting some bracket to tell you the difference between this equal to means assignment, but this double equal to means comparison. Okay. Or you can use the word is. So you're saying, is this word the same as what reverse? Okay. If it is true, it will, you get true, check will be true. If it is false, check will become false. Okay. Now then step 4, it says what? Now print check. So when I run, then you come here to run your code. So when I run my code, now it says enter a word. I know madam, when I type madam, it should be true according to my test case. And it says madam is false. So what might have possibly gone wrong? Something went wrong. How can madam be false? I know madam should be true. Then I run it again. Then I say father. And it says father 2 is false. That is interesting. Is it possibly that I don't know where the mistakes are going to be? So most of you are going to run a code and for your first try it's going to be wrong. It's practically almost impossible to run a code, to write a code for the first time and automatically it works. Remember, anytime you run a code for the first time, even for the second time or the third time, it won't work. It's normal. I have never written a code for the first time and it just worked like that. I think I did it once, and that one time it was like a record. I was happy. But then always it never works on the first trial. Okay. So now I'm going to show you a feature of um, Visual Studio Code that can help you check for errors. Okay. So let's come to this tiny thing. Now it means that there is some error here in the code, or there's something problematic in the code, but we don't know where it is. There's something we need to change. The syntax are correct, okay, but then we are not getting the output we are supposed to be getting. Okay, so you cross this numbering and you come here, you see the red dot. The red dot, you put the red dot on the part where you suspect there's an error. So I know my word input is correct, but I'm suspecting the reversing of the word is problematic. So I put the red dot here. Then I click on debug. Okay, then it says run and debug. Okay, so it says run and debug. Then I click on run and debug. Then I say it is a Python file. Okay. So once it happens like this, okay. So now all the variables in this, so we have word, we have reverse word, and we have check. Okay. Now we'll see some miracles here. So enter a word. So let me enter madam. We are checking for madam. I press enter. So the code will run and stop here. Now looking here, it tells you all the local variables available. So the local variable here is word, and it is what? Madam. Then this bar here, if I'm to bring it, this bar here, when you see this arrow, it means run only the next line. Don't run everything, just only the next line. Because you want to check if each line is correct. So I'm saying run, it is pausing on this line. So when I click on this, it will run this line and go and pause on this line. And it's run this line. Now when it's run the line, you realize that reverse underscore word is what? Madam. So after reversing the word, we got the same as the word itself. but then it is still telling us false. So we are about to run line 19. Okay, so word is reverse. When we run that one, check is false. So the is here has a different meaning. Okay, so the is here is the problem. We use is instead of double equal to. So the double equal to is used for comparing. Okay, so the double equal to sign is saying word is the same as reverse word, true or false. Okay, so I think the is was the problem. So once we found out that the is the problem, you click on start all over. Here it will start all over. Then now it goes back to the beginning. Ask enter a word. Then you say madam. Okay, then you press enter. Then it stops on this reverse word. You press next. It reverses the word. Now it stops on this line 19. You press next. And you see now check is true. It says word double equal to. When we use the double equal to, it works. But when you use the is, it didn't work. Okay. So I've been able to identify that the problem is coming from here. So check is true. Now let us press the next. So next, and it's printed true for us. Okay. So we've been able to see that the error was here. Okay. So anytime you're having errors, just put the red dot over there and click on debug. And sometimes you can put the red dot in the beginning if you don't know where the mistake is. And click on the next and be watching the variables here. Next, 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 until you get to the end. So let's check for father. Next. Okay, father. And when it reverses, it will get what? Read tough or something. Whatever it is. Then next. Then check. When it checks, it is false. Then next. Then it gives you a false. Okay, our code is working as expected. Now I can close my debugger and run it on a normal basis. So let us check with the other word. Mom is true. Okay, but then there is another problem. Now imagine you can remove the red dot for now. It's called breakpoint. Now imagine you run the code and somebody spelled madam with a capital M. It falls because when you reverse it, now let us see what is going on. Why is it false? So let us put a red dot, let's say on word, on reverse. Let's put it here and come to the debugger and run it. And it asks us for the word. While we start with madam with a capital M and press enter. Then we go to the next. Now, when we reverse madam with a capital M, realize that the reverse form starts with a small m, and the word itself starts with a capital M, and the word itself ends with a small m, and the reverse rather ends with a capital M. And small m's and capital M's are not the same. So when we press next, the check becomes false. Okay, and when we print it out, we get false. But we all know that whether with a capital madam or a small madam, they are still the same words. So to avoid that, what we are going to do is that once we take in the word, we will do word is equal to the word dot lower dot lower. So no matter the casing the user enters, just change everything to what? Lowercase. Then after that, reverse it. So let us run this as a debugger and see. In the debugging stage. So we say madam and press enter. And you realize that the word madam has been changed to lowercase. We entered madam with a capital case, but after the code has already crossed this line to this place and it's waiting us here. So it's from this line, it automatically changes to what? A lowercase. Okay, let me remove the dot and put it here. I've put the red dot there. Let me restart it. Okay, so it's restart. Then I say madam, and when I press enter, the word is madam with a capital M, and when I press next, it changes it all of it into a lowercase. Then now I reverse it. Now I get two lower cases, and then the reverse is the same, and the check is true, and we get true. Okay, so our work is done. So if somebody even tries to use our application and spells madam with any kind of casing, with all sorts of casing, even with this, it is still going to tell us true, MA, because it converts everything to lowercase and compare them in the lowercase rather than having any randomized casing. So it seems we've solved this problem, simple and nice. Always remember your algorithm. Start with the algorithm. How am I going to solve this problem in a step-by-step procedure? Okay, so we are done with this part. So bye.